Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. So, you guys had run into the place. Was there anything that you and what's his name, Elliot, needed to talk about briefly while you were grabbing the stuff, or more or less just get the stuff and come back? Because the two of you kind of run off together.
Not really, other than maybe just discuss while we're on the way, discuss like what he knows about the ruins. It doesn't really have to be anything all played out. It'd just be like an exchange of knowledge.
Just as a reminder, because you actually weren't physically here last session, didn't get a chance to watch the tail end of that session either.
Yeah.
He is a linguist. He's a very well learned person and clearly a master linguist. However, he is really good at languages that are alive and well today. However, Mull is a dead language. Like, the hobgoblins don't speak Mull. You know what I mean?
I'll make sure he knows that then, so I can help him with any of the translations.
Well, very few people speak Mull, and that's because they've studied more or less like Latin. Like, oh, you speak Latin? And his whole argument is like, I can't learn a language that I don't know how to pronounce. You know what I mean? It's like, well, no, it's pronounced this way. But are you sure? Like, do you know that? You know what I mean? And so Rayron's argument beforehand was, well, I was taught by a man who was a hobgoblin that identified as being a Mull and knew his language. So I'd say yes, because, you know, that's a person that is, you know what I mean? And he's like, he's a Mull, so he should know. And he's like, oh, really? Is that how it works? He gave some sort of like drawing false lines example as to, I would say drawing actual lines as to example why that's not a good argument. But then that's when Neil was like, but he identified, he was trained in the ancient art of blah, blah. I was like, oh, okay. So you probably do actually understand the language. So that's why he kind of had to stop his research down into the Mind Blows, because he never learned their language. He only knows living languages. You know what I'm saying? You were saying something?
No, that's fine. It means I can. I would be probably asking him if he found what he found while we're going back, in terms of like anything that gives an idea of location, just so we can just have somewhere to start. And I'll just be like replying what that actually means and stuff like that.
So one of the other things they pointed out, again, you didn't get this part, was that the in accordance to what he's discovered, the Mull so this technology that the Sill use, which you know about, it's like elementally charged technology, may not have been created by the Sill. It looks like the Mull had that technology long beforehand, and what the Sill more or less did was, because it was a lost art, they found it and then more or less said, this is ours. We totally did this. Or maybe they didn't say it, but other people just assumed because they were the only ones with it.
I would do the whole that actually goes in line with what we found. We found that,
which you guys did beforehand. Yep. So it's one of those, and he's like, and there may be even more layers deeper than that, and so that's why he's interested. And he was there with his knowledge of Sill and so on and so forth. So his gnomish. So that's why you guys are going down. He just couldn't translate them all. So you guys more or less reconnect and blah 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 blah. You get the crap and you head back to the party. So, when you head back to the party, you
I do want to talk to Rayron as well, though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good. So after they leave, one will kind of go and kneel next to Rayron. I assume he's like, I don't know, sitting or something. And
yeah, he's still slumped against like the wall of the building.
He kind of looks at you, and you can see in his face that he's being genuine. He says, "I'm sorry that you had to pay for my mistake. I'm not used to city life." And he says, "Fair enough. If, you know, I had to pay for so-called transgressions I've been fighting my entire life, and that's the way I'll go. But as far as you and Valorant are concerned, you have my apologies.
Well,
I will try and be more mindful in the future."
that would be appreciated. I don't particularly enjoy being riddled with crossbow bolts, but we got lucky this time. Next time, we won't walk in there so passively.
No. Say, if, no, it's okay. Forget I mentioned anything.
He'll give you like a long look. You sure?
I don't think he looks around. Is there anyone kind of, listening or around?
Not necessarily listening, but there are definitely people around. It's just not like within like 10 feet. There are people about. Some people like looking at you guys because this guy's slumped on the ground, looking like you get crap kicked out of him. You yourself got a little injured,
Yeah. One kind of looks around, and he extends his hand like he's gonna help Rayron up, and kind of as he's pulling him to his feet, one kind of leans in a little bit and says, "Depending what we find in there, I mean, we don't have to share. We have the mechanism from the last keep. We could disappear. Could be a trap. They won't know what happened. And then we can maybe even fund some revenge on what's sold. I mean, I don't know what there is there, if there's anything at all, but it's just an option. These bastards don't deserve anything."
Depending on what we find, that could be a wise decision. I don't want to assist their efforts or aid them if we can. We'll have to see what we find.
Yeah. And he just either helps you back down or helps you up.
Baron would stand.
Okay. Then you guys are eventually the two of them come rushing back towards you, and they're being a little buddy as they like reconnected their like information, everything, made sure they're both on the same page. Gather up with you, and he does this. Come around the corner, the two of you see the two of them. Val, I mean, you're a little hurt. You're 10 out of 12. Look at the other two. You're like, hot damn, they are not in good shape. Actually, Ray, is your max health 10?
I'm complaining about like the tear on my clothes.
My max health is 13, super low.
Oh, why does it say 6 out of 10 on this? Oh, I know why. I know why.
You broke shit, Scott. That's why.
I know why. It's all good. So you're 8 out of 13. That makes more sense. Let me do this. I'm fixing it.
That's right, yeah, because he healed 6 from the other.
It's all good. It's all good. Here we go. We're good moving forward. Cool. All right. So you guys come around the corner and you see the two of them looking like hell. And so it's like, whew. All right. Well, this way, guys. I'll show you the path to get there.
Let's go.
Sorry, I keep getting a tickle in my throat. It's really annoying. So
I would also prestidigitate the blood out of his new armor. And,
oh, he didn't get his new armor yet. It's still being crafted.
Oh, he didn't. That's right.
No,
yeah.
no.
His shitty armor.
So you got.
He wouldn't bother if the armor is going to get rid of. So
It's not that I don't appreciate you saving us, Elliot. I really do. I'm very thankful. But maybe next time we go to meet with an illegal organization, you can tell us if they have a deal not to murder you.
I mean, I honestly wasn't sure if I was going to talk.
I know it's not directly related.
It's, as I had said beforehand, there's a bunch of different, we'll call them factions, that kind of work under the same banner, but they're not necessarily working together. It was sheer luck that it happened to be the same person.
Fair enough.
Honestly, I figured I was just going to go in there and do what I always do. Talk my way out of it.
Well, you managed it.
He rubbing where it was he punched him in the face before. He's like, this time.
But thank you.
He just nods, kind of like let's water under the bridge, just move on, sort of a thing. And he leads you guys back to the center of the city, the heart of the city, the part where like all the nicest buildings are partially stone and whatnot. Leads you back there. Most importantly, he leads you over to a building that seems to be somebody's home, not a not a like establishment or anything like that. It seems to be somebody's home. And when you guys get over there, this is where he's kind of like, so the way that I had bumped into them beforehand is the person that owns this building also happens to be somewhat in debt to the organization that we had bumped into beforehand. We never even talked about what that place is called, have we?
No.
Oh, it's the shiny silver coin. It's literally what they call themselves. It doesn't matter what language you say it in. It sounds sad.
Yeah, Valor was trying not to say anything, and he gives a little like.
No, seriously. And he says it in Gnomish, and it's like ding. You know what I mean? And he says it like a couple of different languages, and each one of them like, no, it sounds pretty sad. It's not impressive. So he's like, anyways, the person that happens to own this establishment. Hold on. The person that happens to own this building here, that happens to live here, is indebted to them, and so they were coming to collect their debts when they thought that I was somehow involved, and I wasn't, and so that's how we engaged, and so on. But the actual entrance is in this person's basement.
Okay. Well, we should have permission to go in, right?
Absolutely not. Come around back. And literally leads you around the back way of the building. And it's like I said, I was doing research to find out where things might be. I was looking at an old map of the city. And anyways, this seems to be the only one that's in. There might be another entrance, but I know this one works. So brings you around the back end of the building, where there happens to be, like, how at the buildings they have like half their foundation above the ground. We have a lot of them in New England. How they always have those like very narrow windows that are somewhat long and are kind of like squat. And he pushes the window open, pushes it inwards. There was bars that were set there, but kind of like the bars, you can kind of like lift them up and pull them out, similar to the stuff that you had encountered with the traps beforehand. These bars are actually removable. And so you remove the 3 bars and push the window in, and it's like, that's where we're going. And he opens the window and like drops his bag down inside and starts feet first sliding into the window below. I don't know who joins behind him.
Raven would.
Okay.
Yep. I guess we follow through.
Rayrin goes second, and when you go inside Rayrin, you can see it's very dark inside there. Being a human, you blink a few times, just like he is. You blink a few times, but unfortunately you can't really see very well at all. I don't know if you just deal with the darkness or you go to cast light.
I mean, there's probably no one down here, so he'd cast light.
Oh, that's why I can't find it.
Let me just confirm that is lit. That I have it ready. Yeah, I do.
Okay. So you go to cast light, and it's like, where do you cast light on? ET phone home.
I mean, I was legitimately thinking that. It has to be a touched object. So the tip of his glove.
Sorry, of his glove?
He's touching it.
Sure, so you just like bings, like the finger of his glove or whatever is glowing. Or I should say his glove technically is the whole object. So the glove starts glowing, and he's like, no, what are you? And he comes over and like grabs his cloak and like throws it over your arm to shield the light, so only some of it's coming out like a dim light. He's like, what are you doing? And he points upwards, and you can see like the floorboards to the building above. I told you we can't be seen down here.
He dismissed that.
Yep. And like while that's transpiring, Valorant comes sliding in as well. And before Valorant goes to conjure any lights, he's like, no light. We're gonna have to stumble through this one.
Well, if it's dim light.
It's dim light, so you can see. It's just even dim for your eyes, but it's not darkness.
I will tell him that I should be able to see quite well here. If you can tell me where we need to go, I'll lead.
Next step is going to be one to come down, but like I said, these window things are rather narrow, and one is actually a decently built person. I'm going to tell you this is an acrobatics check, DC 22 for you. Is that something you're capable of doing, even if you took 2 minutes?
Nope.
Okay.
Can we help him?
What's your modifier, sir?
-2.
Okay. So something like that is something that you legitimately like requires you to find another way in, or a way of like almost restructuring the window or whatever for you guys to get in.
Is there a door out back we could unlock for him?
There is a door that can be come in. I've seen the door myself, but the door is entered from within the actual building itself. There's no exterior access door. The window is the way. Is that with armor on? One? Because your armor gives you an ACP?
Probably.
Yep, that is why. You have a -4 for your scale mail. You have to take off your armor.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it off if I can get through, but it's going to be hard to make a 22 anyway.
Well, but you can spend 2 minutes, and they can assist you and so on and so forth. So,
Okay.
yeah. So you're outside, and you're starting to like take off your armor and stuff like that. As the pieces come off, you drop them on the ground. We can have like say Rayrin's grabbing the pieces and pulling them in and whatnot, and you guys are going to start eventually coming in. While you're doing that, him and Rayrin are going to start Valorant. They're going to start walking about. When you guys go walking around inside the dim dark area down below hand, what he does do is he ends up getting a candle, and lights a small candle, but then walks around with like a book over the candle. So the candle has no light coming upwards, but just kind of like a dim light around, which is so much better for your parent eyes. So you can actually see considerably. And he's starting to semi-stumble his way throughout the dark basement, where you can actually see relatively clearly. And eventually you make your...
Like he's about to bump into something, I just...
you make your way to a back area where they have a whole bunch of like junk was piled here, and you can see that clearly this junk was put here who knows how long ago to be stored. Well, that junk that was all piled inside this room neatly was not so neatly piled away from a particular wall, and you can see like it was clearly recently piled away from that particular wall, and it's out over to that wall where you can see he is going over, and he says, "This is the entrance to where it is we're going below. You see, most people aren't familiar with this kind of architecture." And he's starting to talk, but honestly, you could ignore what he's saying, because you can actually see that the way that the rock structure is slightly different, the way that things are actually placed. This is meant to be not a hidden door to somebody with a trained eye. It's meant to just be a door. Like, it's not even meant to be a trick. It's only meant to be a trick if somebody was like invading
Can I,
the
while
facility.
in the middle of talking, like just walk over and click it open?
Yep. So literally you go over and you just like release the latch, and so it like releases and can be swung. Now, because it's old, it doesn't have a smooth swing. It is a scraping swing. And this is where he's like, you do that, and he's kind of like, right, you studied this yourself. Brilliant. This is what I used last time. And he actually goes over and gets a little bit of, and it's funny because like he's not somebody that has magic items on him, right? He doesn't have that kind of wealth. He actually literally goes over and pulls out a bottle of oil, probably like an olive oil or something like that, and literally starts like pouring olive oil on the ground over near where the thing is, and starts like rubbing it into certain places. And when he recorks it, he starts sliding as slow as he can. You can assist him. The door open. So it scratches and grates and whatnot, but it's much, much, much quieter than otherwise would have been because there's a bit of a slickness to it. In your minds, because your character, of course, knows magics, like a grease spell would have worked better, or anything that's equally slippery but a lot less viscous probably would have worked better. But anyways, you push the thing in. What you see on the other side is, it's not like once you open up the door and there's, oh, look at this beautiful keep. Well, no, everything on the inside is also, you can tell that whatever happened here beforehand to cause most of the buildings on the outside to collapse also caused part of the tunnel on the immediate inside to collapse. So like there's literally a tunnel, like a curved archway tunnel that you're walking through. Chunks of the ceiling have fallen to the ground, causing part of the actual like dirt that was around it to collapse in as well, making areas you're kind of have to duck or whatever. There's bits of roots of trees that not in this immediate spot, but as you guys are traveling further, you'll see growing inside here, and so on. So when you guys finally go into the actual tunnel, this is where you can stop and wait for the rest of the party. But you can actually, he says, inside here would be safe to have light, if you don't mind.
Dancing lights.
And so you get that going. Then on the other side,
For comedic value, let's see if it actually works. Yep, good, we're good.
on the other side, you two are kind of like, no, move your leg over here. Yeah. All right, now bring your left hip down a little bit. All right, hold on. I'm gonna give you a tug. Just don't mind the hand placement. And you start like pulling and are able to get him through like the little window that's down there. Now, when you finally get him through the window, you actually hear a door creak open from across the chamber, because this is a large foundation down here. And from atop some, you imagine, stairs, you hear somebody say, "Hello down there. Is this someone?" "Understand, we have guards on duty in this building. If there's a thief, show yourself. You may keep your hands." "Very well, then I'll send the guard down to find you." And so the door clicks shut as you imagine, and you hear footsteps walk off as they're going to get whatever guard to come check the area.
Yeah,
Valor's just like aggressively gesturing.
quietly make our way in and pull that door closed.
You guys, do that and kind of go and looking about and whatnot. And
On the inside of the door, is there a way to lock it?
I'm sorry?
On the inside of the door, the hole in the wall door, is there a way to lock it?
Oh, no, it's meant to be just a normal door. So no locks.
Okay, then click.
Yeah, you just allow it to shut, exactly. So you guys grab up all the bits of his armor and you start making your way into the little tunneled area where there's actually lit up, so it's easy for you to find it. And you guys go in there and you allow the door to finally shut. And he says, "Well, this is almost where I had left off beforehand. Let's get going."
He may want to put on his armor first.
Oh, he can do that while we're in the area where we get stuck. Come on. And
Great, that's exactly what we want to hear in the area where we get stuck.
so you start, and I imagine while you're walking, one Ray can help you by holding some of your stuff and handing you like this, bracer, and you're putting it on, and you're doing like little bits as you're walking, as opposed to
dancing lights above everyone's head as well.
Yeah, there's 4 of you, 4 lights. As long as you stay relatively close, you can each have your own light over your shoulder.
Rayron would have generated a proper light by now. Not
Okay,
this dim business.
Cocky schmuck. So, so you guys are making your
Who's
way
the one that got us nearly found?
through the tunnels into a chamber, and there are several chambers that you're going to go through that lead you down. That goes a couple of different pathways. He more or less directs you amongst. It's like it's a maze, but brings you down a certain path. And if you inquire, "Oh, what's down?" Nothing. Collapsed tunnel. And you guys start going with him, and you actually go down another flight of stairs, bring you into an actual sub-level, whereas this was just beneath the surface of the ground. Maybe it wasn't at one point in time, because honestly, there's like windows and whatnot in this area. So you imagine at one point in time, this was actually above ground. When you actually go down a flight of stairs, it brings you to an area that seems to be a bit of a sub-level. Now, you inevitably end up finding yourself into a room that is octagonal in shape. So when you come down the stair wall, kind of like down one of the actual and the outer edges of the octagon, it comes down one of the 8 sides where the stairs come down and bring you into. And the whole room has like a very exquisite design to it, with the center having kind of like a circle with like runes drawn onto it. And there's like a small pool in the center there that has some sort of liquid that's inside that pool as well. But aside from the one wall that had the stairs coming down, the other 7 walls look perfectly normal. And honestly, when you're standing in most of the different angles of the room aside from immediately adjacent to the stairs, and you look at where you know the stairs are because you just came down them, it almost looks like they're not there. It's like just like the right angling allows it to kind of like blend in what's behind, making the room almost seem like it's just uniform all around. And when you guys finally get down to this chamber, he's like, this is where I was stuck before. I don't know any way in or out of this chamber other than the one that you had seen. And there is this rather viscous pool of whatever that... So there's this pool of a rather viscous fluid that's sitting in the center. I don't know what it is. What I can tell you is that it's corrosive.
Interesting. I would imagine that is a trap. The mole have proven themselves very capable at making very inventive traps. I'm just going to use detect magic and scan the room with detect magic.
Sure. So you cast detect magic and you're looking at the ruin, and what you can notice is that there is a presence of magic, and obviously all the presence of magic is on everybody that's here, but most importantly the runes themselves that are inscribed into the ground. The runes themselves, sorry I keep saying the wrong word, are magical. My apologies.
What type of magic?
Abjuration.
Oh, okay. I would repeat that. It seems that there is a magic at play with those runes, abjuration magic to be specific. He's got like little his eyes are still glowing with like the detect magic thing.
What sort of script were they? The runes?
So looking down at them, the runes themselves, much like what we were talking about beforehand, are that combination of that mull and I think my volume was way louder than you guys most of this stream, but nobody seemed to notice beforehand. So I feel bad for everybody because my voice is the worst amongst us. I have the boring accent. So when you're looking at the runes, it's that combination of the Gnomish, which is like the language of magic, and the mull that we had seen beforehand when you guys were in the inn back in Grid.
Yep.
I mean, that's perfect. I know Gnomish and Mole.
Yep.
So I should be able to just read these.
Well, it's not Gnomish and Mull, and you just put them together.
Okay.
It's like the two languages are in there, but they also have different grammar and they influence each other's grammar. So it's one of those things where it's actually not an easy thing to just read. But because of the fact that you individually speak both languages, you're actually welcome to go over and you have detect magic on and whatnot. You can actually make a linguistics check. Now, do you have a single rank in linguistics or no?
Wait a second. No, but I was also the profession scribe thing.
True, but this is less about being a scribe and more about linguistics. It'd be two different things.
Okay, then no, I don't have I've got 2 in linguistics.
Rayron also speaks Gnomish and Mol, so can assist, and he also can read magic, which ultimately this is magical inscription. I know it's not directly on a book scroll weapon, but it is emitting abjuration magic, so presumably it is magical in the terms of it's a spell. It either says what this spell does, or it is ready in case you read the words and it activates a spell.
Okay, so you're actually going to go over there and you're literally going to start casting the spell of Read Magic, which is what you were just saying. And while the two, neither of you are trained in Read Magic, correct? Sorry, in linguistics, correct?
No.
Okay. So because neither of you are trained, that's one of those skills that if you don't have even 1 rank, you can't even roll for it. It's trained only skill. So you'll cast Read Magic.
Because he's trained, isn't he?
What?
He's all about languages.
Yeah. We're going to get to that part in a second.
Yeah.
Because he's doing his Read Magic part right now. So with your casting Read Magic and looking over the runes and so on and so forth, I'm actually going to allow you to make me a spellcraft check.
Ooh.
This is going to be Ray.
Oh, yeah.
So what you're actually able to see, Ray, is that's with your spellcraft check, is that the runes here are a modified. You could say that it's very, very, very similar to a spell that you know of called Magic Circle. Magic Circle is something that usually is used to protect those inside of it from creatures outside of it, or to protect those outside of it from creatures inside of it, almost acting like a prison in that second form. It's typically used for creatures that are extraplanar. Demons, devils, angels, Yugoloth, things like that, right? However, this is a heavily modified version of that. It doesn't work against extraplanar creatures like you typically would. It actually works against creatures that are intraplanar, like interplanar, like elementals, is what it seems to work as. But most importantly, it also is in the mode where it acts as a prison for what's inside of it, as opposed to those outside of it.
Oh, I think I just put two and two together. If you share that with the group, I have a very bad idea about what's going on.
I imagine that he's reading magic and the two of you are collaborating back and forth.
Okay.
Like actually that spellcraft check, I gave him a +2 in my head because I assumed the two of you were working together on it.
Okay, yeah. I have a very worrying proposition. If this is working currently as the prison version, he looks over at the pool. There is a chance that whatever that pool is actually being held there, and maybe an elemental.
Yes. Now, how do we go about opening this up without releasing that elemental?
Well, I guess we might probably best to investigate the rest of the room very carefully. He's going to look over at Elliot. What areas had you looked in already? Is there anything else you know about the room at all?
I walked around the entire room. I've walked around the entire room. I've searched every wall. I've touched them with my fingertips. I've examined them with lights. You
see, like Valorant, like wincing as he does that. Like, oh, that could have been real bad.
I've prodded with various instruments and have even said words of magical power that have been useful in the past for uncovering other ruins that I've explored into beforehand. Not an archaeologist, but I have been part of digs before for others that have hired me. Like I said, usually work for patrons. Nothing has worked. What I can tell you is that this pool right here, at one point in time, I had grabbed a small piece of it. I had scooped a small piece of it out, and then I started to work with it. It doesn't have any effect on the well around it or any stone that I put it on, but I did touch it, and it burned my glove.
Interesting. Did the part you took have any other interesting or notable effects in terms of how it acted, if it at all was drawn back to the center?
So, no, it didn't seem to be drawn back to the center or anything like that. It was just like a small little, like I said, it's like a viscous fluid. But the thing is, if you imagine pouring an acid on something, the acid is only as effective as it maintains its integrity. The acid does. Usually acids are relatively thin, so they burn and kind of lose their potency rather quickly, right? But because this is rather viscous, much like how an ice cube slowly melts into water, that water being acid, this gelatinous kind of form, this viscous liquid that's here, as it slowly dissolved into being more liquid, it just made it so it burns deeper and longer.
Okay, so one, if you're finished changing, he just looks over at one. Would you be able to do the sifting on the walls that you do while I have a look around for any more text?
Sure can.
Because of the size of the room, technically speaking, to use sift the correct way, it would be it's an octagon. It'd be 8 sifts and a 9th one if you're going to do it on the center as well. But if we say that Neil here is assisting you on that one, then why don't we have Neil do that, and we'll have you do 4 for the walls, and we can do a separate one for the center.
All right. I would be guidancing myself every time as well.
Sure. So you're gonna have a +3 on whatever you roll, which is so more or less
So
a -2.
-2.
Correct.
Yeah.
And don't forget, like, don't just spam it because you might choose to use a pool of luck.
Yeah. All right. First one.
Okay.
Second one. Third.
They're going up.
And fourth.
Fourth.
Hey.
It did literally go up every time. That was pretty funny.
Do I do 5 for the last thing?
Yeah, well, so we'll get to the last one afterwards because that takes you a little bit of time.
Okay. Yeah.
So Tesh, you and Elliot are in the center there, started looking over the ruins and trying to work through them. So Elliot is going to be able to make it a linguistics check with you guiding him, not to make it so that he can get a bonus, but making it so he could actually make the check. He had failed beforehand. This is just a new check with your assistance. Oh, and I rolled well. Woo-hoo!
Oh my god. Yeah.
That's actually a really, 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 really good thing that he happened to roll so well. So, looking through the runes and trying to discern what they are, beyond, of course, the magical aspect of them that was discerned by Neil, you can see that literally it has written the combination of the mole and gnomish that exists there. It simply says, written there, the seal has been placed to protect those from without, from within.
Oh, okay. So we definitely don't want to damage those in any way. Interesting. So it definitely is once again alluring to it's holding whatever this is in here. I'm worried that leaving this room or opening a door in any way will automatically break this seal.
I spent 3 days. Well, realistically, I spent 1 day trying to discern all the different locations down in these ruins. I spent 2 days additionally inside this room alone, testing it every way I possibly could. There's nothing aside from a pool of acid right here.
You'd be
I
surprised.
understand that the magic is here, and I contemplated scratching off the runes, but we all know that just scratching off runes when magic might be involved could be a bad thing. I couldn't read them or understand them before, but
Yes,
I'm not an idiot.
Knowing what to do now, it's very good that you didn't. The reason why I say that we should still make sure we thoroughly search this room is our dealings with them all so far. They've been very good at hiding things, be it levers or doors entirely. When they want them hidden, they are very hidden. This is why one's ability to magically sift an area, it comes quite in handy. It's one thing that I would note is if this is a trap, the mole usually have a way to reset the trap. So if we can find that, then we are much less risk of this thing, if it is what I'm worried it is. But either way, we would best do not let it out, but should it happen, we will look for the reset first.
Seems peculiar wording for a trap. To protect those without from what's within. That's talking about protecting those who are outside the circle from what's inside.
Yes.
It seems rather too literal for a trap.
That is what I hope.
Does seem more like a warning.
The worst. Yeah. I would rather assume the worst and prepare for it than have it sneak up on us. Ideally, this is exactly what it seems. It's a trap. And it's exactly what it seems. It's a cage holding this creature here. Just that is the ideal situation, and I wish to plan for the not ideal situation as well.
It doesn't appear that there is a mechanism that would release this creature. There's no doors or levers or such that have magic that correlates to breaking the runic circle.
Now the runic circle on the ground, is it on different stone pieces?
Yeah, much like if you've probably seen inside like gardens and whatnot beforehand, it's like the nice stone slabs that they use to like make it, or maybe you've seen a well and it's almost like a trapezoid. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a long back side, a short front side, and then slanted angles coming towards it, right? And there's a whole bunch of those individual ones going around.
Yeah.
And as you're asking this question, why don't you roll me your last perception check for checking this last area? And you keep talking, sir.
I was going to say, am I right in thinking the way magic works in terms of this sort of runic magic, if that was broken by, say, a piece going into the ground or out of the ground, breaking the circle, that would break the thing?
Breaking the circle would break the effects of the circle, yes.
I would relay that all it would need is for one of the pieces to go down or up, and it would break the circle. That's breaking the effect.
Like, one of the worst ways to cast Magic Circle, but is really good to do in like a pinch, is you literally draw the runes on sand. But the problem is, like, if somebody breaks one of those runes in the sand, then, you're kind of without a paddle. Now, one of the best ways to cast Magic Circle is to have it embedded in the adamantine, because it's very likely that it cannot be ever broken by anything, and then it always functions,
Yeah, so as I said, I think you're right. I just hope I'd rather be ready for the worst. We've seen what their traps can do.
What next then? Doesn't appear that there's any route further down or through.
No. Did you find anything, One,
looking down into the tunnel, looking at the runes and everything, in the pool. Sorry, not tunnel, the pool. That's right there. He's not able to see anything. Maybe it's the fact that the liquid is just too thick that he can't really perceive around it with his spell.
Okay. Interesting. I have an idea. It is not a particularly normal idea, but I am going to attempt to meditate and pray for some guidance here. It's been a while since I've had one of my visions, and this would be appropriate time.
DM,
Right.
please help me.
You go.
Partly that, but also just if you have any other ideas, now would be the time to use them.
You go and pray to whatever it is that is sending you messages.
I must say, it is amusing to see that you are still so skeptical of this, despite what we've been through. I understand,
course.
though. It's
I
rather...
could say the same thing to you.
Oh, fair point.
Godlike deities or something capable of doing that. I don't doubt. Its purpose, I doubt. Why it's doing this, that's the question. Nevertheless,
That's fair.
we'll
He will
continue
actually
to
respond with like that. That's a perfectly reasonable reason.
You said I'm familiar with Magic Circle.
Because you rolled so high that your character is familiar with the spell, yeah.
Magic Circle would keep this creature constrained, keep it restrained, unable to act. Would we just be able to kill it from outside the circle without damaging the circle?
Whatever you did would have to go into the circle, and whatever's inside the circle, in theory, would not be safe from whatever's inside the circle. So let's say, for instance, let's give an example. You summoned a Baylor, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, I'm a big evil beastie thing, and you put it inside of a magic circle. You're like, I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to give you a good talking to. And he's like, you stupid human, you're making me stuck here. I don't like this. You're like, well, too bad, you're stuck there. But if that human steps one finger into the circle, it's like, oh, I got you, and pulls them in and eats them.
That's actually a good point.
But we could just sit outside and pelt it with crossbow bolts or spells.
In theory, you'd be able to pass things through it. However, discharges of magics and whatnot through the circle could potentially disrupt the actual circle itself. Especially since it's embedded into an old stone, it's old runes. You don't know how powerful it might be, or how weak it might be.
That's a good point.
Okay.
If you have, you have not more knowledge of this spell. If you have any ideas,
Not particularly as of yet. We could attempt to destroy the creature before it's able to break out from the spell. However, that's comes with its own risks. I would be more keen to ignore this for now. As I've said, I don't believe it to be particularly a trap.
that's actually a good point. I have an idea. Scott, would I know which direction from where we are is towards the middle of the city? Generally,
you would not know. You'd have to find the middle of the city, count your paces over towards the entrance of this place, and then kind of like figure your bearings from there.
Okay, so I can't just like give a general idea.
You didn't even necessarily know exactly where the middle of the city itself was before. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, then never mind that. So it's just a hexagonal room with the pit in the middle and the ring. That's all. That's octagonal. Okay, my bad. And that's all there is so far.
Mm-hmm.
However, we have to consider that there's a purpose for this elemental being here. We understand that the mole power some of their contraptions with elementals.
That's a good point.
Now, knowing that, is there a contraption around that might be powered by this sort of power? We saw that some form of power elemental of air and something generated lightning. What would we want here? Well, perhaps a passage deeper into the ruins, perhaps the ability to melt stone, something akin to that. Now, perhaps there's a way. Are there any runes or anything that would suggest that there's a way to channel this power somewhere?
So
even if it's piping, because the mole have weird contraptions as well.
So you kind of going back over to the runes and looking them over again, trying to see if you can, like, before you were trying to discern what the actual runes did and then what they said. And so that's, of course, what you did. Just try to look them over, and more. This is more of like a structure of the actual room itself, because unfortunately the perception check didn't work.
Also into the pool, I guess, because there may well be a pipe or something in there that would channel the power.
That's how you found it last time when somebody had rolled a much higher perception check with their sift. Unfortunately, this time they just rolled garbage. That's like the difference between last time to this time.
Yeah, knowing what he said now, would I be able to look at the walls and see if any of the walls, if one of the walls is different, say newer or replaced, that sort of thing?
Okay, so to answer both those questions, they're both going to be dungeoneering checks. One pertains to the actual stone itself as dungeoneering, because it's like stone cutting, and the other one's going to be pertaining to the walls. So Neil, why don't you roll a dungeoneering for the pit, and you roll a dungeoneering for the walls? Okay. Wow. So Val, what you're going to notice is that the walls themselves, you know without a doubt in your minds that the walls themselves are all formed at the same time. You know what I mean? These are definitely no hidden doors, no anything there. These are meant to be. You can even tell by the structure, because your knowledge of the mall structures of these walls are designed to be very strong, reinforced walls. So reinforced for the sake of they hold a lot of weight above them and can withstand a strong impact against them. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But they're uniform in their age and structure. So.
Okay, so it's not the walls. he would relay that the walls are not where we're going at the very least. It may be we need to remove this elemental so we can go through there.
Okay, and then looking into the pit itself with your 17, you're looking at it, Ray, and what you actually notice is you were curious beforehand how this thing's powered, so on and so forth. You're not entirely sure how it's powered, because you just can't see the source of the power right now. You just know the runes themselves are maintaining their power over centuries that the power is still inside them. Maybe it's because the original casting was powerful enough, or maybe there's something actively feeding it. You don't have that answer yet. But you do notice now, looking at the actual, like I said, the trapezoid-like pieces that are around, that they're removable. Actually, they're removable piece by piece. Like you could actually move them about if you want to, and they're all equal in size. So you could actually slightly change them about, restructure them if you wanted to be rewritten. You know what I mean?
So the piece that the runes are on.
Correct. So the individual trapezoid pieces can be pulled out and put into different places.
Okay. So all we have to do is change the runes, potentially lure the creature out, and change it to protect that which is within from what is without.
Aha. Okay. So do you know which runes would need to go where? If we're going to do this, it'd be we'd have to do it quickly. We also may. Do we want to rest first, or? That actually does sound like as you say, if we have to move it out of the way, that would explain a lot.
The only problem is that we're potentially releasing some form of elemental on the city.
Send it to the bank.
Well, we can. You're saying you more or less need to switch the phrasing of the two words. So instead of protecting without within, it's within without. Let's at least see if we can solve that puzzle of how it needs to be restructured, and you guys can kind of like look it over. It's going to be another what's the word I'm looking for? Linguistics check to figure that out. Elliot asked you once to roll it because nobody else has a training in it.
I'll guidance him too.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, damn.
Okay. And so with the +2 from the what's his name? You guys, one of you makes it so he can make the roll. The other one gives a +2. The other one gives a +1. It's 25 again. So it's a really good check. Ends up being able to figure out the way you need to move them, and it literally comes down to as simple as there's two stones that are, just because of the way that their center structure works is very different from ours. That was a translation. There's literally two that are right next to each other. If you pull one out and slide the other one over, you can put the other one in. You could probably move them in like a second's time, like very quickly. You can move them, as opposed to it being like this long drawn out, carry it over there. You know what I mean? And you're pretty sure you can get that done. And he's like, I didn't realize this beforehand because I couldn't translate it. But now that we're looking at it, and now that we're looking at what you had said, look at the grooves that are here. He says, like, pointing down at like the stone that's down there and everything. It looks like it's been done before. Like, not today, not the past, but like it's been done many times before.
Maybe there's something else keeping the creature in this general area.
Why, I just meant that it seems like this was a normal method of theirs.
Noble.
The
question is,
sorry, go on.
what would happen to the elemental if we switched to that so quickly? Would it be expelled in a horrible shower of acid, or would it merely stay there?
Well, if there's only one elemental, maybe we can unseal and seal it up immediately, and we can figure things out that way. I don't know.
So correct me if I'm wrong. The way Magic Circle works is, the things when it's like a prison thing, they can go into it and then they're just stuck in it, and when it's the other one, they can go out of it and then they're stuck out of it. It's not a case of like it's just a wall permanently sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a one-way.
Well, when you cast a spell, it's either cast this way or cast that way.
Yeah,
so it's actually one way at casting. Yeah. But this is different.
So when we reverse it, it's not expelled, but we then have to lure it out and go in.
However, you're talking about luring an acid elemental over stone runes.
He said, Elliot, you said that the acid didn't affect the stone, right?
No, no. I mean, otherwise we would see it burning right now.
As you say, though, the issue is if we are unleashing this on the city.
So these stones that we would be moving, when we moved one, would it allow the acid to flow out?
You believe so. Doesn't mean it's gonna, like you said, it's gonna be an expulsion, like a bleh, or is it gonna like goop? You don't know. You don't know.
If we split it quickly, it presumably would split the elemental in two. As we saw with those little wood monster things, smaller creatures are weaker. We could potentially simply raise a stone for a few seconds and replace it, and rinse and repeat this a few times to simply destroy 5 smaller elementals instead of 1 larger one.
That's not a bad idea. It also would give us a gauge of strength. If we fight a small one and it turns out to be insanely strong, well, we can learn from that, but it would be a smaller one rather than a big one.
Seems like a wise decision to me. What do you think? 1, Elliot?
I just am excited that we found the answer, or potentially the answer, and it's killing me that you haven't already pulled the stone.
All right. You probably want to get to the edge of the chamber.
What is Cure Light?
1d8 plus 1, unless it's a potion. The potions, I think I gave you a 1d8 plus 2.
Okay, sweet. I'm going to down a potion quickly.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Elliot rushes over to the, they grabs up his books and whatnot, goes over to sit like halfway up the stairs. Not sit, but, kind of like crouch standing halfway up the stairs, like to just crouching underneath the ceiling so he can see what's going on.
Rarin.
Oh.
Oof, that feels bad, man.
Yeah.
Rarin draws the kukri, spins it a couple times.
If it makes you feel better, you still have the most HP.
It
By
flashes with the blue light.
Ooh, yep.
And he wedges it under one of the stones, and he says, 1. If I lever this one up slightly, I need you to move it. I'll slide the other one across, and you place that one in the previous place.
If we do that, it reverses it entirely. I thought we were just lifting it up, letting a bit through, putting it back down towards the prison.
Yep.
We don't want to do that. So one of us can do the lifting. If you two want to ready to attack, I can do the lifting. I can hopefully do it from an angle which it will not get me immediately, at least.
He looks at the stone. Are you sure you can lift that?
It's like 30 pounds,
Oh, so it is like
you can lift it. It's just oof.
I can, but I would not be the one to do it quickly. I'm just doing it the lift and then put down again.
Okay, don't crack the stone when you put it down, and don't let too much out.
Before we start, I would just like to do this to everyone.
Ooh.
Boop, boop, boop.
Hey.
Pray with me, brothers, in
And
the name of Rogar.
I'm also going to guidance everyone as well.
Nice.
Hey.
That means the first person he casts those 2 spells on only lasts for 4 more rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, so because it makes his way around, but we'll figure that out in a moment. So you go over there and you pick up the stone. You get to your intention is to lift it up, hold it up high for a second, and then put it back down.
I would test to see, like, not actually lift it fully, but sort of do a little, like, raise a little to get a feeling of how heavy it is, and if I can hold it up that long, just to make sure.
Yep. Again,
As much as I want to keep my pride, I also don't want to die.
unless I'm how many kilograms in a pound? Is it 2.2 kilograms in a pound, right?
I have no clue.
I think that's how.
That
No, it's
doesn't
2.2
sound right.
pounds in a kilogram. Sorry.
Yeah.
So 30 pounds is like something like 14 kilograms. You know what I mean? Or 13 kilograms.
Okay, that's heavy.
So
but
heavy, but not
un-
like the end of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, I meant the other way around. So it's like 13 kilograms. So
So I would very
your character's just
carefully-
weak. You have an 8 strength. You know.
Yep.
So you go over and you grab the thing and you hoist it up. And as soon as you like hoist it up just enough that it truly breaks the plane of magic, it breaks the plane of magic. All of a sudden, there's an eruption of light that happens, like from the center of the pool, not the center pool. Sorry, from the from where the ring of glowing characters are. There's a burst of light that goes outwards, almost like a line of energy, runs from there down across the floor, over up, and smacks on the hexagonal wall all around. Immediately on the wall, the hexagonal wall, all around you, you have a whole bunch more runes start to light up all around you, making the entire chamber that you're standing in the some sort of magical field or energies happening through it. The same exact time that that's happening, not slowly but rather quickly, the actual stairwell itself is pushing itself back into the wall that it was kind of protruding from, literally sliding into it. And the ceiling that Elliot kind of like had his hand on, just pull his hand down quickly as the ceiling actually starts to seal up shut, making the entire chamber that you're standing in become a sealed shut room. As you're holding this out, you're like, oh shh, and you start trying to push it back down. But as soon as you had pulled it out and broken the plane of magic, the eruption of light happening, causing you to like blink for a second or two, then looking down like you want to close it, the actual goopy material that was inside the well starts like bubbling and flowing outwards, like an overfilling fountain, and not doing so slowly.
Which one now?
And not doing so slowly, and starts immediately coming over and starts trying to like course over the area where you just lifted the stone from, which would make it very difficult for you to depress this one back down. At this point in time, why don't we end today's session
Okay, this is not good.
and find out what it was that you guys just did when we come back next week.
This is what we get for about caring about citizens.
You know, I'm glad you know, elementals and, you know, stuff. Lots of fun.
We're gonna die, aren't we?
We can't drag our feet for too long because I believe Neil is going live in about 47 minutes time, and I don't want to keep him or Ollie waiting. So let's quickly go around who is doing what and where so that we don't waste any more. Tesh?
Hi, I'm Tesh with the Tesh Tube. You can find me under that name on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. You should follow me for like anything like looter shooters, looter games in general, especially if you like Monster Hunter. I just got this and I'm getting a new capture card so I can play it. It's Monster Hunter Generations. So I'm going to be doing that on stream soon. So yeah, and also if you like cute animal gifts, because I post a lot of those to Twitter.
Neil?
Hey, I'm Neil, or at Naghai on the Discord, or at Naghai_ on Twitter. You can find me at any of those. I appear on Scott's stream here, and I appear on Ollie's stream in about 50 minutes on twitch.tv/OllieRant, which is a D&D 5th edition game. And spoilers, it's going to be a big fight that may end in a TPK.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, I need to tune into that one after learning what's happening.
Let them all die. I actually feel bad for Ollie. He got a shout out over at when we did the Descent stream, but apparently Wizards of the Coast cut it short before it was able to be said at the tail. It was kind of like I was like, "Here's the tail end of the session. Everybody, let's talk." Like we're doing right now, and they literally like end of the session. They just cut it immediately to some random person talking about something. So I never got a shout out on there, which is dumb. Jake, where can I find you? What's your address?
Tell everyone your address.
That went right over my head until like 3 or 4 seconds later. I'm like, hang on, what?
Yeah, well, I am Jake, and you can find me here, and that's it. In the Discord at JAEK.
Perfect. And there we go. My name is Daelric. You'll find me here as well as on Lost Initiative. And you can just Google it. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day. Okay, goodbye. Oh, and patron stuff is coming out now that I'm back home and stuff.